Hello and welcome to Suzerain. Perhaps welcome back because I did play the demo of this game, but now I'm recording this ahead of release day, so I was provided a key generously by the developers. That means that I'm going in fairly blind. I don't know anything about what comes after the demo. Also, if you did come from the demo, we are probably going to revisit some old terrain, maybe with some changes that came through development, because the save does not transfer over from the demo. But if you want to see me seeing the things in the demo for the first time, you can check that. That'll probably be like before this video in the YouTube playlist. Other than that, we're going to jump in. So Suzerain is a narrative, it's mostly text-based, but it's kind of like that creates the wrong connotation when you just say that it's a text-based game, right? It's a narrative about running a country in the, well, sort of a fictional Cold War between, I don't actually remember the exact names of the countries, but like a US equivalent and a USSR equivalent. And it's not just about like running the country, like you're playing some sort of game like Hearthstone 4 or whatever. You are playing a character and you have friends and you have like, you know, personal relationships with the ministers and all that. Everything is like, all the ruling and the running of the nation is represented through these relationships with people, which is a very interesting way of doing things that I don't think games like this often do. I might actually turn down the music a little bit. Music is really good. And also, like, is made to fit the tone and stuff. Anyways, let's jump right in. You are my enslavement and my freedom. You are my flesh burning like a raw summer night. You are my country. Azim Hikmet Ram, a Turkish poet. I believe he's Turkish, at least. I think that's the country he spent most time in prison, at least. "1908, Kingdom of Swordland. You opened your eyes to this world you came from." So this is where we give our character their backstory. And I'm going to try to do some, like, more or less what I wanted to do last time when I played the demo, but we might make some different decisions. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to, like, that idea that I was running with in the demo, that's kind of what I want to try to do here. Like, that's what, you know, that's where my sensibilities naturally take me. You open your eyes to this world you came from, so let's say we were from a middle-income family in the city of Holsord. So Lachaven, I think, is the western port city. Holsord is the capital, and Deir is the... I think that might be often like the... I wouldn't say the provinces, but we'll get to see the map once we're done with these decisions. Your parents named you Anton Rains. As the only child of a diligent civil servant, you lived quite an ordinary childhood. Life was not bad. You were lucky enough to attend a well-known public school, but frequent fights broke out at the Rain family home. These made you feel uneasy. 1923. During a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced a historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Swordland was born. You did not fully understand. How old are we at this point? 11? Don't do maths on camera. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. You chose... how about we chose history at the Deir University of Culture, because I am, of course, doing a master's degree in history. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Vichy. He was a well-known diplomat from the foreign ministry and the son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained why realpolitik is important for successful foreign policy. He argued that a strategy based on practical and material factors would be much more successful in reaching Swordland's ambitions. I think I should question what I was being taught, because realpolitik is like, a lot of people hold this up as this like genius, you know, way of like solving politics. Where we now know how to do politics, because it's all about, you know, a zero-sum game, you know, game theory and all that. I disagree. I think there's more to it. There's, you know, ideals, ideas actually matter, and, you know, morality and all that. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering protests along with your best friend, Peter Vekten. You decided to protest with students. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Luderin declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. You joined the students that slowly marched towards a large group of soldiers. Suddenly the soldiers charged. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. How about I held my ground? The soldiers beat you relentlessly. It was a gloomy year. That was the coup of 27. The coup split the students into two groups and caused frequent fights. Torture and imprisonment of the opposing voice became a daily routine in there. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join student council. Like, this is the backstory of a politician, right? The council was focused on increasing the student involvement in the campus along with partaking in the budget. Through active participation, you gained budget management and leadership skills. That might actually affect some of the gameplay, like, mechanics later on. I didn't actually think about that last time, but now that I've actually played the game a little bit, I know. In one of the meetings, Peter introduced you to one of his friends, Monica, who was a volunteer for the Swordfish League of Women. You were immediately attracted to her intelligence. The politically charged environment led you to... Okay, so this is going to be fun. We can't stay away from any political organization, and I know that the Young Swords are very, very problematic, from what I've seen so far, in the demo at least. But I'm going to go with the Red Youth. It's not uncommon for a young politically involved person to have like a radical streak. The Red Youth relayed that the communist general, Rickard, surrounded Luderin and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused, and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. So you have a civil war. Rickard's sudden attack caused more instability in the country, but compared to fascist Luderin, he was a real socialist. This convinced you to participate in a support march. You were chanting freedom, equality, and solidarity was the... Oh, someone mentioned this last time. That is the motto of... Oh, it's some sort of like socialist like organization. I think Workers of the World Unite. That's the is that the IWW, the International Workers of the World? And then freedom, equality, and solidarity probably... Is that the anarchist one? And then bring down the fascists, I guess, is just straight up Antifa with no other guiding ideological principles except anti-fascism. I think freedom, equality, and solidarity sounds nice. You're marching under the protection of Rickard's soldiers. The students opposing the coup gathered a few hundred meters in front of you. Many nationalists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. I mean, yeah, it's a coup, and then we have a counter coup, another coup, against the guys who did the original coup. I need to stop saying that too much. I'm going to start sounding like a pigeon. Many nationalists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. I mean, I don't think you can die in the... I kind of want to see, but I don't think you can die in the backstory. There was a massive clash between the two sides. Soldiers began to beat the students. Tanks started rolling forwards. In this chaotic moment, you saw a young girl about to get run over by a tank. You ran to save her. But you couldn't reach her in time. You never forgot her face. The clashes escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos must end. Oh, here we go, Tarquin's soul. Grand Moff Tarquin. The charismatic colonel, Tarquin Sol, orchestrated a sudden coup and brought an end to the chaos. He wrote a new constitution and restored stability. The people saw him as a savior. He formed the United Swordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever elections. It's kind of like an Antonio... Is it Antonio? Salazar kind of guy, like in Portugal. This guy who's like obviously problematic. He, you know, set up this pseudo-military dictatorship here. But he brought order and he brought economic prosperity in a sense. So a lot of like a lot of people look back on him favorably. You voted for the United Swordland Party. USP won the election by a large majority. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica and noticed her interests to marry. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. Devastating civil war broke out in the neighboring country, Valen. This looks like World War One sort of imagery, like British soldiers with like Lee Enfields, look like Lee Enfields kind of. The distinguished mayor, Joseph Lancea, ordered you to lead a squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of Gumran outpost. You could see your breath. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source. The squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. Now, this might be controversial, but I'm going to let them slip through. This might actually sort of like indirectly sort of shape the history of the country. I don't know, actually. Because I know there's a refugee crisis when I played in the demo, and I think I did the same thing here. Well, actually, I'll talk about that later. Also, this is also a really good way of indicating to players who are watching a Let's Play, I guess, what kind of, like, playthrough they're in for, I guess. Because you are sort of defining your character's moral stances on things. After the patrol, Major Lancea arrived with anger and immediately relieved you of your command, calling you a disappointment. One of your squad members had reported your actions. After several months of scrubbing the force's punishment, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. I'm guessing if I didn't do that, I could have had a career in military life, I guess, or something that... something more distinguished that I could look back on. You and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessing of her parents, a ceremony was held in Holsword. During the same year, you worked hard to secure a high-paying job at the governing United Swordsman Party. It was much more difficult to start your career on a good foot because of the refugee incident, but you still managed. I am of the opinion that, I said I was going to address it, I am of the opinion that, that nobody has a higher right than anyone else to happiness and security and all that. I think that everyone has an equal right to it. Being born in a country doesn't entitle you to it more than someone who isn't born in your country. Like, on a fundamental, like, principle sense. Working for the ruling party was the easiest path to power. Financial compensation was too great to pass up. It was the best opportunity to change the country for the better. I'm going to say our character is sort of an idealist. You became the foreign policy assistant to one of the more experienced members of the assembly. You worked long and hard, staying late at work, reviewing dozens of foreign policy plans. You were climbing the ladder. Like, the game does allow you to choose like an ideologue, an idealist. You can choose to play as like a completely pragmatic person as well. Saul strengthened the Republic by removing the institutions and symbols of the former kingdom from society. Things were also looking up for the country as a massive economic boom continued, and people were the happiest they had been in a decade. Election time came and it was decided. President Tarkin Sol was elected once more. And once more, and once more, and once more. The preparation of the most comprehensive trade agreement with Agnolia was occupying most of your personal time. But your significant contribution to the trade talks triggered an invitation to meet President Tarkin Sol himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of the assembly. I accepted right away. I don't think our character in Term 2 would expect Tarkin Sol to be who he is. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought Petter in as your right-hand man. The birth of your son. This was the guy who protested with us and introduced us to our wife. The birth of your son, Frank, provided a brief moment of joy and relief. You sacrificed family to improve your position in the party. Oh, this is gonna be... This one, I think, is going to be important. I'm gonna do the party one. I think I did the other one last time. Along with Petter, you have done great things to cement your position in the party. Meanwhile, at home, Monica and Frank felt your absence. At the same time, President Sol increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the party. The cracks began to show. 1945. President Sol barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. For the past year, people were growing discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Meanwhile, calls for the USP party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. You joined the internal opposition. You gave your support to Ewald Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate who was the main contender for party leadership. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Sol was meeting party members one by one, but it didn't approach you. The party Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the USP were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for the turning point. The voting for the party leadership began. You voted for Ewald Alfonso. The efforts bore fruit as the contentious leadership vote was won by Ewald Alfonso. Now, actually, I don't know if this is this might be different from last time, because I feel like I remember Sol winning. Maybe he only won 4. Maybe. During the Congress, Sol announced his retirement from politics. You knew the structure he had established was to stay. The country had become increasingly authoritarian. You were happy that Sol was finally leaving. I mean, I wasn't troubled by it, because I voted against him. Yeah, I don't care who's in charge. We need to change the system. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Diana. She motivated you during a tumultuous period of the party. The general elections were approaching. The United Solan Party was under the new leadership of Ewald Alfonso. You did your best not to help him. During the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with the secretary. So it's Bill Clinton, diminishing their chances. The extensive privatization program proposed by Ewald Alfonso secured an election victory for the USP. It's austerity, basically. Did you, let's say, you did your best in order to make Solan a better place, tried all that was necessary to climb up the ladder, or dedicated yourself to the party and its success? I will try to make Solan a better place, of course. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair system hampered all opposition efforts to win. You thought that your party could not survive another crisis. Together with Petter, your presence in the USP grew and you became the face of a new wing in the party. You effectively took over the leadership as President Alfonso lost control of the country. The moment to make a move had come. You blamed Alfonso for the crisis on television. Classic. The media backlash prompted President Alfonso to reshuffle his cabinet, but most of his inner circle abandoned him. The party eventually voted you in because of your charisma as a leader. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Petter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. You promised to, so this is important. This speech, we will now establish promises that we need to fulfill. I will enact democratic reforms. People are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us, brothers and sisters. A new constitution and a new age is upon us. On election day, millions went out to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. That's me. Do I have to click here? Oh, yeah, nope. It's just... okay, I know what's going on. I think I'm downloading Titanfall 2. Right, so this is the game. Santon Rain, you have made many promises to the people of Sordland in order to gain their votes. They must be considered very carefully. Sordland's economy has been based on a planned doctrine since its foundation until the former president, Ewald Alfonso, enacted free market reforms. Now the country finds itself in between two different economic systems, so both have issues. The free market, of course, I think I talked about this in the demo let's play, but the free market, of course, is very good at, it's very good at ensuring profit, right? But profit doesn't mean everything. Planned economy can be really good at addressing things that the free market doesn't necessarily care about. But it can also, if it's in the wrong hands, be very, very dangerous. So the free market does its thing predictably. The planned economy can be predictable if you're predictable and competent person is or persons rather are in charge of it. No one person should be managing an economy. Now, diplomacy. You got the West, which is the US equivalent, and you got the East, which is the Soviet equivalent. Or you can do neither. Last time in the demo, we did neither. And the West are probably problematic for some reasons that I'm not yet aware of, because this game is not very black and white. But the East, I think, were problematic because of, well, they lack democracy in their system right now. So you got capitalist Arcadia, which is the US equivalent, and then you got the communist United Contana. I'm gonna go with neither. I'm gonna try to go unaligned, like we did last time. I'm going to promote a planned economy, because I'm in charge of it, so surely it can't be bad. And immigration. We will keep immigration relaxed, which is interesting. It's going to mess with our ability, I guess, to get votes from the more conservative voters, and it's also going to create issues in a region that borders and a troubled region where a lot of like refugees are coming in. And I believe it's going to create a good pipeline for drugs and terrorists to get into the country. Which, I mean, it's just gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun thing for us to deal with. So, I promised to focus on certain extensive subject within our first term. People expect us to solve the negative solutions or situations with this topic while providing an overall improvement to the related policies. So, we think, well, so if I didn't choose to align, if I chose to align with one of the large superpowers, I would probably not choose military, because then we could rely on their military, sort of like Norway relies on NATO as a deterrent against our friendly neighbors who send jets into our airspace all the time. And law enforcement, I don't think law and order and stuff is like what we would go for. I think health and education are the big ones, but in the first term we might want to focus on the military because we are unaligned. And that means we need a military to address, possible issues. I'm gonna go with the military. We can do health and stuff in the next term. Oh, provided that there is one. Actually, should we do health? That is actually, it would be a very populist effort. Like, everyone likes healthcare. You know what? Let's try health. Last time I think we did military. Let's try health. Everyone likes healthcare. That's us. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election, and now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th president of Sworland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rain. The die was cast, and there my story began. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood upon the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. I looked at my family. My son and daughter Frank and Diana were next to me, to Monica, my wife. Her eyes were glimmering with pride. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible, of course. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my cabinet. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orso Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. Don't remember this guy. Time for the oath has come. I am ready. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sworland, and, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Sworland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech. So this one is important. Brothers and sisters. Change and hope. Let's focus on change and hope. You, the people, have chosen together. We will bring... you, the people have chosen. Together, we will bring prosperity and reform to our nation. It is a time of hope. It is a time of change. I'm not a charismatic politician, if you can't tell. I'm not the kind of person to deliver these speeches in a very charismatic manner, but let's see. If we stand together, we'll prevail. The issues that plague us, our capabilities, I'll go with if we stand together, we will prevail. In the past, there have been times of survival, times of conflict, and economic hardship too, but whenever we stood together, we prevailed. Sworland is above all in the world? No. First we must rewrite our broken constitution. First, we must rewrite our broken constitution from 1929. Change now, not in the next decade or years. Today. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. So if you can't tell, we are... let's raise our fist. We're sort of going... sort of a bit harder left-wing populist, I think, than we did last time. One of the presidential guards came by to notify that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadillac with flags assorted above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Serge Walkner. Still under the effect of the speech I made, hearing my new title made me smile. If you allow me to introduce myself, I'm Serge, your new driver. Nice to meet you, Serge. It is an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Serge proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. As the minutes passed by, I found myself lost in my thoughts again, barely paying attention to what he was saying. He suddenly made a gesture towards the now closer palace. Isn't it a beauty, the maroon palace? He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright that I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. It's a beating heart of the nation. No, the heart of the nation is not in one place, I think. The heart of the nation is carried in every person's breast. This is a bit arrogant, but I kind of like it. It is in good hands now. I'm sure of that, Mr. President. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Serge got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. Morgna Vescore. He quoted the famous Swedish phrase from the times of revolution. A Morgna Vescore, vector necessita, which means morning will come, victory is close. I'll say vector necessita. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. So, this is our nation. Lachavan, Angland, all these are like the various regions which have their own issues. Deir, where's Deir? Deir is a city, right? Oh, that's Erlori. There's Deir. Deir, okay, yeah, Deir is actually, yeah, it's in Berja, which is the, one of the, like, Nargis and Berja, especially Western Nargis, are two of the, like, more problematic regions. I believe there's some issues between Lesbia and, Slavoj Zizek, trash kind of ideology town. But yeah, between Velen and Lesbia. Like the flag there. Congratulations from President Alvarez. He spoke about his hopes to have a beneficial partnership in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Swedish people. And, well, hold up. Oh, I didn't see it, but... So... We have some dominant ideologies at play here in this world. We have these guys who are... Rumberg. Are they... Which ones are so this is Valksland. I think Rumberg is the representative for the Americans, essentially. Like these guys are the nation that border us. Like the Americans are off map, but these guys are like the nation that border us, who are like on the most friendly terms with them, I think. But these guys are kind of problematic, like very much so. They're highly traditionalist, highly nationalist, and I think they're kind of xenophobic. These guys are kind of like... So these guys are aligned with the quote-unquote Soviet Union, United Kontana, I think. Chancellor Hegel, you can tell what's going on here. Chancellor Hegel sent his congratulations on your great victory and wished for close cooperation between our countries in the future. Hegel signaled concessions from Valksland in case of a promising trade deal. That's good. He also congratulated the Swedish democracy for the successful elections and warned us about their threat of Arcasia's growing influence poses for Eastern Merkopa. Eastern Merkopa, I guess, is where we live right now. Maybe it's like Eastern Europe, essentially. Arcasia is the United States equivalent, with like a NATO thing in the middle. I haven't actually seen this flag before. Looks like a weird mix of Iceland, NATO, the EU, the USA, and Nazi Germany. President Dwight Walker. Yeah, they're the Americans. It started the period of conflict and revolutions. Let's see, the century of revolutions. So that's like the year of revolutions, 1848, but like a century, I guess. Highly developed country, the nation became the world's largest economy by nominal GDP at the start of the 20th century. During this period, many Arcadian companies rose to the most profitable and largest in the world. Yep. Locked in a fierce global ideological battle with United Kontana. So United Kontana are left-wing, but they're the right-wing left-wing, if that makes any sense. They are... there we go, there's their flag. That's actually different from the demo, I think. Also looks kind of JPEG'd up there. But it looks like it's different from the demo, but... it is led by Chairman Leon Maleniev. Now, Leon Maleniev is probably a, you know, kind of like a Lenin or Stalin equivalent, because it's their ideology is referred to as Malenievist. I'm assuming in this case it should be Stalin, right? Because it's 1950 something, 1953, I think. Overthrew the let's see, had its roots in 1907 when the revolutionaries of the Trotsky, which probably means the Reds, led by Leon Maleniev. So he's been in charge since 1907. Very long presidential terms in this this Democratic People's Republic. In 1910, after a civil war ending the Trotsky's victory, the United Kontana was formed by a treaty which united the Kontanian, Transkontanian, Kiovian, and Bielo-Kontanan republics. I like that. So Kiovian is Ukraine. Transkontanan is like, I'm guessing... Oh, what are those nations south of Russia called again? Like those, like Uzbek and the like the Stans and stuff. Kontanian is Russian. Might be might be Siberian, I don't know. But Kiovian is Ukrainian. Bielo-Kontanian is Belarus. Republics of the Kontana continent. But yeah, Volksland is like, they are, from what I can tell, island nation and a major naval power to be reckoned with. Volkslandians and their language Volgan have spread around the globe because of their colonial past. After the Millennialist Revolution of 1901, all traces of the empire have been removed. Volksland is a member state of the CSP, which I guess they're like economic union, like the I forget what it's called. It's not the Warsaw Pact, because that's their military alliance, but Chancellor Emmerich Hegel. Colonization of the Rika and Gina continents. It's kind of like British Empire, I guess, but now sort of socialist. Their ideals are rooted in Malenievism. Many protest arrests and killings. Yep, that's messed up. He started a period of de-Ulbrichization, de-Stalinization, essentially. So this is a progressive, more progressive socialist. Who tried to like rid himself of the tyranny of the past. He reorganized the People's Party and distanced it from Malenievist lines, so distanced it from Stalinism. It's kind of like maybe like, well, I was about to say like a Sino-Soviet split, the split between China and the Soviet Union in the 1960s, but that's not really fair because China split off into its own authoritarian direction, and it was the Soviets who were trying to liberalize a little bit. Greatly reformed the country according to those ideals. In recent years, huge reforms of Hegel have diminished the role of the Revolutionary People's Party and increased public participation in politics. So these guys seem kind of cool. Like they have, like I'm not going to say it. So okay, hold up. I'm trying to like organize my thoughts here. Oh, and also we are over time, so I'm going to have to end the episode soon. But these guys are, from what I can tell, sort of like they had a hard, turbulent past. They have had, of course, a disgusting colonial history, which they then try to atone for by freeing their colonies and giving them, you know, seemingly like their own sovereignty and all that. And then they, during the revolution, I wouldn't say the pendulum swung too far in one direction, because I don't think politics necessarily is like goes from left to right or just in two different directions, but I think that they ended up choosing the wrong solution for their perceived issues. and decided to essentially replace what may have been, since it was an empire, right? What may have been an authoritarian system with another authoritarian system. Purely because the authoritarian system they adopted was promising solutions that the past authoritarian system could not promise, or would not promise. But now it seems like they're trying to get those same solutions without the authoritarianism. So this is maybe like, this is a nation that we could potentially look to as someone we want to become friends with. These guys, I think, are a bit spooky as well. President Smolak signaling a desire to normalize the diplomatic relationships between the countries. Yeah, I think we have like a slightly strained relationship with them. And these guys, they didn't even send anything to us, I don't think. They didn't even say congratulations. Relations bad, yeah. Proud of Summit. For centuries, they have clashed with the southern kingdoms due to their disadvantageous geographic position. They have grand global ambitions, but lack key resources to fulfill them. Yeah, I don't like that. Anyways, that is, nice line. That is it for this episode. So if you like this video, and if you like this kind of content and want to see more of it, unless you can sort of probably forget what the language is like here, but if you like this sort of video and you want to see more of this, please leave a like. It helps out a great deal. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be posting these videos periodically, maybe even every day after release. And is there anything else I should say? Yeah, my Twitter, my Twitch, Patreon, all that garbage is in the description down below. And any other relevant information that you may want. The game is out, so if you want to play this game, you can go and buy it. I was not sponsored at all, given any money or anything. I just was given the key, and this game is cool. That's about it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, where we'll get into the meat of this actual game. Goodbye.